Ma'am, we've been talking about a conversation that occurred, or at least we've talked in the past, about a conversation that occurred on May 26th of 2008 between the defendant and Mr. Alexander. Do you remember that conversation? I know there were many, not many, there was at least an instant messaging conversation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
There was also a text messaging conversation involving that,
Yes.
whatever it is that they talked about, correct?
Yes.
And May 26th of 2008 is 2 days before May 28th of 2008, correct?
Correct.
And during this conversation that they had, exhibit number 450, Mr. Alexander indicates certain things about her. It is written, you are a sociopath, correct?
Yes.
And it is also written there, you only cry for yourself.
Correct.
There's no reason to believe that he wasn't telling the truth there, is there?
They're having an argument.
We understand that they're having an argument, but you've told us before is that you can go behind the words. Do you remember telling us that you could go behind the words involving the journal?
I remember you telling me I went behind the words.
Well, are you saying?
I remember, they're having an argument here, so names that are called, there's a series of names that are called. I don't know that I believe all the names that she's been called, so him calling her a sociopath is in keeping with the kind of names he calls her.
What are you saying in terms of whether or not you believe what is being written here? You're the one that indicated that when you looked at the journals, you could go behind the journals, that what's written in the journal when it was involved the defendant, and tell us what was going on behind there. Can you tell us anything about what's going on behind his words when he makes, or the statements are indicated, you have never cared out me, and you have betrayed me worse than any example I could conjure up. You are sick, and you have scammed me.
I read a lot of rage behind those words.
And so he's upset at her, correct?
Correct.
And it could be that he has a good reason to be upset with her, right?
He could have a good reason, he just goes over the top, Mr. Martinez.
So the answer is yes, he could have a good reason, right?
Not a good reason to say the things he says, a good reason to be angry, which is a very different thing.
You don't know what he was angry about, do you?
It doesn't matter what somebody's angry about if they're using a lot of vitriolic words to describe someone. That's a very different thing. Everybody has a right to be angry. It's what you do when you get there that makes a difference.
So what you're saying is that you really don't know why he was angry with regard to this conversation, right?
No, I don't.
And in fact, again, this conversation was 2 days before May 28th of 2008, correct?
Correct.
The bottom, it reads, I don't want your apology. I want you to understand what I think of you. That's what it says, right?
Correct.
It also indicates that I want you to understand how evil I think you are, correct?
Yes.
And then it ends it by saying, at least that box, you are the worst thing that ever happened to me, correct?
Correct.
And that is true in this case, isn't it?
Objection. Argument is
Sustained.
move to strike, please.
Granted. Jury, this is our last question.
May we approach, Your Honor?
And so, ma'am, with regard to this, you are the worst thing that ever happened to me. You're not telling me that you're going to go behind that and tell us that that means something else than what is written there, are you?
I'm looking at all three boxes, Mr.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you about the three boxes.
I'm looking at context, Mr.
And I'm not
Mr.
asking you to look at the three
Martinez.
boxes. Can you just look?
One at a time. Mr. Martinez, finish your question. Ms. LaViolette, wait for a response.
I'm asking you to look at the one box only. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
And with regard to that one box, and that one box only, and with regard to the statement, you are the worst thing that ever happened to me. You're not going to tell me that you can go behind that and tell me that there's a different meaning to that phrase, are you?
Double negative.
Overruled. You may answer.
I'm going to tell you that I can't take one box and make an assessment on it.
Objection, non-responsive.
The answer will stand.
I don't have any other questions there.